I'm 33 years old, and I can still taste the bitterness of that New Year's dinner. Not the food, God knows my mother's cooking has always been perfect. Everything plated like a magazine spread, but the bitterness of sitting at that table, feeling smaller with every passing minute, knowing I'd been invited not as a daughter, but as a prop in someone else's success story. My name is Ivy Draven, and this is the story of how I became invisible in my own family, and how I finally made them see me. Drop your city in the comments, let's see how far this story travels. And if you've ever felt like the black sheep in your family, the one who could never do anything right no matter how hard you tried, stay with me. This one's for you. It started long before that dinner, of course. These things always do. When you're the daughter who didn't become a doctor, didn't marry rich, didn't produce the golden grandchildren on schedule, you become a disappointment so familiar that people stop seeing you as a person at all. You become a cautionary tale, a punchline, a sad little asterisk in the family narrative. My brother Garrett, he was the son. Everything revolved around him. He went to Princeton, became a corporate lawyer, married a woman who looked like she stepped out of a Talbot's catalog. They had 2 kids who played lacrosse and piano. They lived in a house with a 3-car garage in Westchester County. He was everything my mother had ever wanted in a child. And me? I was a graphic designer working freelance, living in a small apartment in Queens, single, childless, and apparently, according to every family gathering, a complete and utter failure at life. I should have known not to go to that dinner. The invitation itself should have been a red flag. My mother called me 3 weeks before New Year's, which was unusual because we typically only spoke when she needed something. Her voice was saccharine sweet, the tone she used when she wanted me to do her a favor. "Ivy, sweetheart," she'd said, and I already felt my stomach tighten. "I'm planning a special New Year's dinner. Just family. Very intimate. I'd really love for you to be there, Mom." Please, honey. It's been so long since we've all been together. Garrett and Monica are coming with the kids. It would mean so much to me. There it was. That little edge of guilt, sharp enough to cut. It would mean so much to me. Translation: you owe me this. You owe me your presence at my table so I can display my family like a complete set. I should have said no. I should have made up an excuse: work deadline, stomach flu, sudden onset of common sense. But there's something about the way your mother's voice can wrap around your throat, even when you're 33 and should know better. Some invisible umbilical cord that never quite gets cut. "Okay," I heard myself say. "I'll be there." Wonderful. 8 o'clock. And Ivy? Try to wear something nice. Not those jeans you always wear. She hung up before I could respond, which was probably for the best. The 3 weeks leading up to that dinner were filled with a mounting sense of dread I couldn't shake. I kept telling myself it would be fine. Maybe this would be different. Maybe my mother genuinely wanted to see me, wanted to start the new year with actual family connection instead of the performance we usually engaged in. I bought a new dress. Navy blue. Understated but elegant. I got my hair done. I even practiced conversation topics in my mirror, neutral subjects that couldn't possibly trigger comparisons to Garrett's achievements. The weather, the new restaurant that opened downtown. Anything safe. The house in Scarsdale looked like something out of a Christmas catalog when I arrived. White lights dripping from the eaves, a wreath on the door with real pine branches, the kind that cost $200 from the fancy florist. My mother's house had always been about appearances. Everything carefully curated, everything designed to impress. I rang the doorbell at exactly 8 o'clock, clutching a bottle of wine I'd spent too much money on, hoping it would be nice enough to avoid commentary. My mother opened the door in a cream-colored silk blouse and pearls. She looked me up and down, a quick, assessing scan that took in every detail, and found them lacking. "Oh, Ivy, you made it. Not warm, not cold, just flat." Like my arrival was a mundane inevitability rather than something she'd claimed to want. "Come in. Everyone's already in the dining room. Everyone's already in the dining room." Translation: you're late. Even though you're exactly on time. Even though she told me 8 o'clock, I followed her through the house, my heels clicking on the hardwood floors she'd had refinished last year. The dining room was lit with candles, the tables set with her wedding china, the good crystal glasses catching the light. It looked like a scene from a lifestyle blog, Garrett stood when I entered, his lawyer's smile sliding into place. "Hey, Ivy, good to see you." Monica gave me a tight little wave from her seat. The kids, Tyler, 10, and Madison, 8, barely glanced up from their phones. "Ivy, you remember Monica's parents, Richard and Patricia," my mother said, gesturing to an older couple sitting at the far end of the table. "They're joining us this year." I felt my stomach drop. Monica's parents. This wasn't a family dinner. This was a showcase dinner, with me as the uncomfortable addition to an otherwise perfect family portrait. "Nice to see you again," I managed. Shaking hands, smiling, playing the part, we settled into our seats. Me, isolated at one end. Garrett and Monica flanked by her parents and my mother. The kids in between, buffer zones of youth and distraction. The first course was butternut squash soup. My mother explained, in excruciating detail, how she'd made it from scratch, how the squash came from a farmer's market in Connecticut, how the recipe was from a cookbook written by a celebrity chef she'd met at a charity luncheon. "Ivy, how's work?" Richard asked, probably trying to be polite. Before I could answer, my mother jumped in. "Oh, Ivy does little design things on her computer. Freelance work, you know. Nothing steady. Little design things." As if the brand identity I'd created for a major skincare line didn't matter. As if the website redesign that had won an industry award was just me doodling in my apartment. "Actually," I said, keeping my voice even, "I just finished a project for Garrett just made partner." My mother interrupted, turning her full attention to Richard and Patricia. "Did I tell you? Youngest partner in his firm's history. They're talking about him taking over the entire corporate litigation department." And just like that, I vanished. The conversation moved on, flowing around me like I was a stone in a river. They talked about Garrett's cases, Monica's volunteer work at the Children's Hospital, Tyler's acceptance into a gifted program, Madison's upcoming dance recital. I ate my soup. I drank my wine. I smiled at the appropriate moment. The main course was beef Wellington. Of course it was. My mother had made beef Wellington for every important dinner since I was a child. It was her signature dish, the one she trotted out when she wanted to impress. "This is incredible, Susan," Patricia said, and my mother glowed. "Oh, it's nothing. Just something I threw together." Nothing. Threw together. She'd been preparing this meal for days. But that was the game, make it look effortless. Make it look like excellence came naturally to her. Like she didn't have to try. Like Garrett didn't have to try. Like I would never be enough no matter how hard I worked. Midway through the meal, my mother cleared her throat. That particular sound that meant she was about to make an announcement. "I wanted to gather everyone here tonight for a reason," she said, her voice taking on that formal quality she used when she was performing. "As we head into this new year, I've been thinking a lot about family, about legacy, about what we leave behind." Oh God, I knew where this was going. "Richard and Patricia, you've raised an exceptional daughter in Monica, and together with Garrett, they've built such a beautiful life. Beautiful children, beautiful home. Garrett, you've made me so proud. Everything you've accomplished, everything you've become, you're exactly the son I always dreamed of having." Garrett ducked his head, fox modest. "Thanks, Mom." My mother's eyes swept the table, landing on me for just a second before moving on. "Family is everything," she continued, "and I'm so grateful to be surrounded by success tonight. By people who have made something of themselves." The implication hung in the air like smoke. Patricia smiled, oblivious. "You've raised wonderful children, Susan." "Well," my mother said, and now she looked directly at me. "I tried my best with both of them. Both of them. Tried my best." As if Garrett was the triumph and I was the unfortunate failed experiment. I felt something crack inside my chest. Not break, not yet, but crack. A hairline fracture in whatever was left of my ability to sit at this table and pretend everything was fine. "Ivy," Monica said suddenly, and I realized she was talking to me, probably trying to be kind in her own clueless way. "Are you seeing anyone? I have a cousin who's single. We could set you up." "I'm good, thanks," I said quietly. "Oh, come on," Garrett chimed in, grinning. You're not getting any younger, Ivy. Mom's never going to get grandchildren from you if you keep hiding in your apartment. The table laughed. Gentle, indulgent laughter. Like it was all in good fun. Like I was supposed to laugh too. My mother smiled. That tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. Garrett, don't tease your sister. She's just focused on her little projects right now. Little projects. You know, Ivy, my mother continued, setting down her fork. I was thinking, you're so good with computers. Maybe you could help Garrett's firm with their website or something. I'm sure they could throw you a few $100s. It would be nice for you to have some steady income. Throw you a few $100s. As if I was a charity case. As if I hadn't built a career through skill and determination and endless nights of work that nobody in this family ever bothered to ask about. I have steady income, Mom. I said, oh, of course, honey. I just mean, something more stable, more respectable. It's hard to take you seriously when you're doing freelance work at your age. No benefits. No security. What happens when you get sick or old? You can't rely on your art projects forever. Art projects, like branding and design, weren't legitimate work. Like I was a child playing with crayons. Some of us, I said slowly, carefully, had to build our careers without family connections or trust funds to fall back on. The table went quiet. Garrett's smile faltered. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, I said quickly, backing down the way I always did. Forget it. But my mother wasn't going to let it go. She never did when there was an opportunity to make a point. Ivy, no one's saying you haven't worked hard, she said, her voice dripping with condescension. We're just concerned about you. You're 33, living alone. No prospects, no real career trajectory. At some point, you have to face reality. You're not going to suddenly become successful. Some people just aren't built for it. Some people just aren't built for it. I looked around the table. Richard and Patricia were studying their plates, uncomfortable. Monica was giving me a pitying look. Tyler and Madison had their phones out again, bored by adult drama. Garrett was watching me with something like satisfaction in his eyes, and my mother was looking at me like I was a problem she'd been trying to solve for 33 years and had finally given up on. You know what I think you should do? My mother said, leaning forward like she was about to share profound wisdom. Find a nice man, someone stable, a teacher maybe, or an accountant, someone who won't mind that you don't have much going on. Settle down. Have a simple life. Not everyone can be exceptional, Ivy, and that's okay. The world needs ordinary people too. The world needs ordinary people too. That's what she said. That's what she believed. That I was ordinary. That my life was small because I was small. That my dreams didn't matter because I didn't matter. I set down my napkin. My hands weren't shaking, which surprised me. I felt very calm, very clear. Thank you for dinner, Mom, I said, standing up. It was illuminating. Ivy, don't be dramatic, she sighed. Sit down. We're about to have dessert. I think I'll pass. I walked out of that dining room, through the house with its perfect hardwood floors and its perfect decorations, past the perfect photos on the walls, mostly of Garrett. A few obligatory ones of me from when I was young enough to still have potential. My mother called after me, but her voice was annoyed, not concerned. You're being ridiculous, Ivy. This is exactly why you can't succeed at anything. You run away the moment someone tells you the truth. I got in my car and drove home to Queens. I didn't cry. Not yet. I sat in my apartment, my small, cluttered, wonderful apartment filled with my work and my life and my actual accomplishments, and I felt that crack in my chest widen. And then I got angry. Not the hot, explosive anger that burns out quickly. The cold kind. The calculating kind. The kind that asks questions and waits for answers. I pulled out my laptop. I started going through files, records, documents, things I'd been given access to years ago and had forgotten about. See, here's the thing nobody at that dinner table knew. My mother had made me the backup trustee on all her financial accounts 6 years ago. It was supposed to be Garrett, but he was in the middle of a messy lawsuit at the time and didn't want his name on anything that could be subpoenaed. So she'd put my name on everything instead. Just temporary, she'd said. Just until Garrett's case is settled. but she never changed it back. I was still on every account, every investment, every credit card, everything, and I'd been paying attention. I'd been watching. I'd seen the transfers. I'd seen where the money was really going. I'd seen the lies. It took me 3 hours to piece it all together that night. 3 hours of following digital trails, of checking dates against calendar events, of matching transactions to conversations I'd half forgotten, and when I was done, I sat back in my chair and laughed. Actually laughed, which probably would have sounded unhinged to anyone listening, because my mother, the woman who just spent 2 hours telling me I was a failure, the woman who invited me to dinner specifically to humiliate me in front of Monica's parents, the woman who had never believed I was capable of anything significant, she had been stealing from me. Not directly, nothing that obvious, but for the last 3 years, she'd been routing money through accounts that were supposed to be mine. Retirement funds our grandmother had left me. Money from the sale of our old family house that was supposed to be split evenly between me and Garrett. She'd been taking my inheritance and giving it to Garrett, funding his perfect life, his perfect house, his kids' private school tuition, and she'd been telling everyone, including Garrett, that the money was coming from her savings, that she was being generous, that she was helping her successful son achieve even more. With my money, I had the bank statements, I had the transfer records, I had emails between my mother and her financial advisor discussing how to reallocate Ivy's inheritance for better use, meaning Garrett. I sat there until 3 in the morning, reading through years of theft, years of betrayal. Every document was another slap in the face. Every transaction was another lie. They thought I was too stupid to notice, too incompetent to track my own money, too ordinary to matter. The next morning, I called a lawyer, not one of Garrett's fancy corporate attorneys, a friend from college who specialized in financial law and had always told me if I ever needed help, to call him. His name was Owen Martinez, and he listened to my story without interrupting. When I was finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Ivy, he finally said, this is pretty clear-cut. Your mother has been committing financial fraud. The fact that she had access to these accounts doesn't give her the right to move your money without your consent. And the way she disguised it, this was intentional, calculated. I know, I said. What can I do? Well, first thing, you're still listed as a trustee, right? You have access to everything? Yes. Good. Don't change that yet. We're going to need documentation. But Ivy, I have to ask, what's your goal here? Do you want to prosecute? Because you absolutely could. This is serious enough that no, I said. I don't want her to go to jail. Then what do you want? I thought about that dinner table. I thought about my mother's face as she told me I wasn't built for success. I thought about 33 years of being invisible, being dismissed, being erased. I want her to feel what I felt, I said quietly. I want them all to feel it. Just for a little while. Owen was quiet again. Then, okay, I think I know how we can do that. We spend the next week planning. It had to be surgical, precise, legal, but devastating. The key was that I had legitimate access to everything. I wasn't going to steal. I wasn't going to break any laws. I was simply going to take back what was mine and exercise my legal rights as a trustee. On the 7th day after that dinner, on a cold Tuesday morning in January, I executed the plan. First, I transferred every penny of my inheritance back into accounts under my sole control. Money from my grandmother's estate, money from the house sale, everything that was legally mine that my mother had been managing. It was a substantial amount, more than $200,000. Then I used my trustee excess to freeze my mother's main checking account. Not permanently, just a temporary freeze, citing suspicious activity, which was completely legitimate given the transfer patterns I'd documented. It would take her at least a week to unfreeze it, maybe 2 if she didn't have the right paperwork immediately available. Finally, I called Garrett. He answered on the 3rd ring, distracted. Yeah? It's Ivy. We need to talk. I'm in a meeting. Can this wait? No, I said calmly. It can't. Did you know that the money Mom's been giving you, the money for Tyler's school, for your house renovation, for Monica's car, did you know where it came from? Silence. Garrett, did you know Mom's been taking my inheritance and giving it to you? More silence. Then? What are you talking about? My inheritance from Grandma. The money from the house sale. Mom's been moving it into your accounts for 3 years. I have the records. All of them. I heard him breathing. Heard the shift in his tone from confused to defensive. That's not Mom said that money was hers. She said she wanted to help us. It wasn't hers, Garrett. It was mine. And she took it. And you spent it. I didn't know, he said, but his voice was weak. Didn't you? Or did you just not ask questions because it was easier not to? He didn't answer. I've taken it back, I said. All of it. Everything that was mine. And I've frozen Mom's main account, the one she's been using to fund your life. So you should probably call her. She's going to need a lawyer. Ivy. You can't, I already did. And Garrett? Happy New Year. I hung up. The first call came from my mother 2 hours later. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Her voice was shaking. High-pitched, panicked in a way I'd never heard before. Ivy, I don't know what you think you're doing, but you need to call me back immediately. There's been some kind of mistake with my accounts. The bank is saying just call me back. This is serious. I deleted the voicemail. The second call came from Garrett. I didn't answer that one either. His voicemail was angry. What the hell, Ivy? Mom's freaking out. She can't access her money and she's saying you did something. You need to fix this. Whatever point you're trying to make. You've made it. Now be an adult and fix it. Be an adult. Rich coming from him. The third call came from Monica. That one surprised me. Her voice was careful, diplomatic. Ivy, hi. It's Monica. I don't really know what's going on, but Garrett's very upset and your mom called here crying. I'm sure this is all just a misunderstanding. Maybe we could all sit down and talk. I really think, look, family is important. Whatever happened at dinner, I'm sure Susan didn't mean to hurt you. She loves you. We all do. Please call back. I saved that one, not because I believed her, but because it was evidence of something I'd suspected for a long time. Monica knew. Maybe not all of it, but she knew enough. She knew the money had come from somewhere questionable. She knew my mother had been playing games with finances, and she'd said nothing. The fourth call came from a number I didn't recognize. I answered that one. Is this Ivy Draven? A woman's voice, professional. Yes. This is Patricia Hendricks, Monica's mother. We met at dinner last week. I closed my eyes. Of course. Hello, Patricia. I hope you don't mind me calling. Garrett gave me your number. Well, this is awkward. But I heard there's been some trouble with your mother's finances. That's one way to put it. Ivy, I'm going to be direct with you because I think you deserve that. I'm an estate attorney. I've been practicing for 30 years. And when Monica told me what was happening, I pulled up some records, public records. Nothing invasive, and I saw the transfers. I waited. Your mother was stealing from you, Patricia said bluntly. I don't know if anyone else is willing to say it that plainly, but that's what was happening. And I think you know that. I do know that. Good. Then I want you to know that whatever you're doing right now, you're well within your rights. Don't let them bully you into thinking otherwise. I felt tears prick my eyes. Thank you. I also want you to know, Patricia continued, her voice gentler, that I'm going to have a very serious conversation with Monica. She's a good person, my daughter, but she's been complicit in something she shouldn't have been. And I'm sorry. You didn't deserve what happened at that dinner. Why are you telling me this? Because I have a daughter too. And if someone treated her the way your family treated you, I'd want someone to stand up for her. Even if it was too late to stop the damage. We talked for 20 more minutes. She gave me the names of 2 other attorneys who specialized in family financial disputes. She told me about cases she'd seen similar to mine. She told me about her own sister who'd been erased from their family narrative because she didn't fit the mold. When we hung up, I cried for the first time since that dinner. Not from sadness, from relief. Someone believed me. Someone saw it. The calls continued all day. My mother left 6 more voicemails, each one more frantic than the last. Garrett called repeatedly. Even Tyler's phone called once, probably Garrett making him try because he thought I wouldn't ignore a kid. I ignored all of them. Instead, I went to work. I had projects due, clients waiting. I did what I always did. I created. I designed. I built things that were beautiful and functional and mine. 3 days after I'd frozen the accounts, my mother showed up at my apartment. I was in the middle of a Zoom call with a client when my doorbell rang. I ignored it. It rang again. Then someone started pounding on the door. "Excuse me," I said to my client, a kind woman who ran a boutique bakery in Portland. "I need to handle something. Can we pick this up in 10 minutes? I muted my microphone and walked to the door. Through the peephole, I saw my mother. She looked terrible. Her hair wasn't styled. She was wearing jeans. My mother never wore jeans, and a puffy jacket. No makeup. Her eyes were red. I opened the door. "Ivy, thank God," she said, trying to push past me. I blocked her. "You can't come in. I'm working." "Working?" "Ivy, this is serious. The bank has frozen my accounts. They're saying there's suspicious activity. They're saying that you flagged the account." "Did you do this?" "Yes." Her face went white. "You what? Why would you do that?" "Because there was suspicious activity, Mom. You were moving my money without my permission." "That's fraud." "That's not. It wasn't like that. I was managing those accounts. I had permission." "No," I said calmly. "You didn't. You had access." "That's not the same as permission. Ivy, please. I don't have access to any money right now. I can't pay my mortgage. I can't pay my bills. Your brother's school tuition check bounced. Do you understand what you've done? Do you understand what you did?" I shot back. "For 3 years, Mom. 3 years you took money that was mine and gave it to Garrett. Did you think I'd never notice? Or did you just think I was too stupid to figure it out?" "It wasn't like that. That money, Grandma wanted the family to be taken care of. She would have wanted Garrett to have it. He has children, Ivy. Responsibilities. You're alone. You don't need it the way he does. Just alone. You don't need it. So you decided that for me? You decided my inheritance didn't matter because my life doesn't matter?" "That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said. At dinner, at every family gathering for the past decade. I'm the failure. I'm the disappointment. I'm ordinary. So my money, my inheritance, my future, none of it matters as much as Garrett's perfect life." My mother's face crumpled. "Ivy, you're being cruel." "I'm being cruel?" I almost laughed. "Mom, you invited me to dinner specifically to humiliate me. You told me I wasn't built for success. You told me to find a simple man and have a simple life because I'm not exceptional. You did that in front of people I barely know, in front of your grandsons-in-laws. And then I found out you've been funding Garrett's exceptional life with my money. It was for the family. I'm family." The words came out louder than I'd intended. "I'm your daughter. I'm part of this family. But you've never treated me like it. I've been the punchline, the charity case, the embarrassment you have to explain at parties. And you stole from me to make Garrett look better." She was crying now, real tears streaming down her face. "I didn't mean I never wanted you to feel that way. But I do feel that way. I've always felt that way. And you knew it. You've known it for years. You just didn't care because it was convenient. It was easier to have one perfect child and one failure than to admit you had 2 children who were both just trying." "Ivy, please. I need that money. The freeze, it's not just my checking account. The bank is investigating. They're talking about my investment accounts too. If this goes on, I could lose what? Your house? Your savings? The security you've always had?" I stepped back into my doorway. "Now you know how it feels. Not knowing if you're going to be okay. Not knowing if anyone's going to help you. Being dismissed and diminished and told your life doesn't matter. You're my daughter. How can you do this to me? You're my mother," I said quietly. "How could you do it to me?" I closed the door. She pounded on it for another 5 minutes, begging, crying, demanding. Eventually, she left. I went back to my Zoom call. My hands were shaking, but I smiled at the camera. "Sorry about that," I said to my client. Where were we? The next few days were brutal. My phone never stopped ringing. Garrett showed up at my apartment twice. Monica sent a long email about forgiveness and family healing. Even the kids, Tyler and Madison, sent me messages on Instagram begging me to help their dad. But the worst was my mother's voicemails. They evolved over the days. First came panic, then anger, then bargaining, then guilt. "Ivy, I'm your mother. I raised you. I fed you. I clothed you. I put you through school. And this is how you repay me. You're being vindictive and spiteful. This isn't about money. This is about you being jealous of your brother's success. Please, baby. I'm sorry if I hurt you. I'm sorry for what I said at dinner. I didn't mean it. You know I love you. Please just unfreeze the account. Your father would be so ashamed of you right now. Is this what you want? To destroy your family? That last one almost broke me. My father had died when I was 19. He was the one person who'd always seen me, always believed in me. And using his memory like that, weaponizing him to manipulate me, it was low even for her. I called Owen. How long until the investigation is complete? I asked. The bank said another week, maybe 10 days. They're being thorough because of the dollar amounts involved. And then what? Then they'll unfreeze the accounts if your mother can prove the transfers were legitimate. But Ivy, she can't prove that. She can't prove you authorized those transfers because you didn't. The most they'll do is give her access to her own funds, the ones that were actually hers to begin with. So everything that was mine stays yours. And she can't touch it. Not legally. I exhaled. Okay. How are you holding up? I don't know. I keep waiting to feel guilty. To feel like I've gone too far. But I just don't. That's because you haven't gone too far, Owen said firmly. You're taking back what was stolen from you. That's not revenge. That's justice. Maybe. But it didn't feel like justice. It felt like survival. On day 9, Garrett showed up at my apartment building with a lawyer. Not his lawyer was corporate litigation. This was a family law attorney, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a sharper suit. They buzzed my apartment. I didn't answer. They waited in the lobby. Finally, I went down. Ivy, Garrett started, but the lawyer held up a hand. Miss Draven, my name is Carol Simmons. I'm representing your mother and brother in this matter. I'd like to discuss a resolution. There's nothing to discuss. I took back money that was mine. That's it. Your mother is claiming that you had an arrangement, that she was managing those funds on your behalf, and that you approved the transfers. She's lying. Can you prove that? I pulled up my phone and showed her emails. Messages between my mother and her financial advisor discussing how to move Ivy's inheritance without her noticing, screenshots of bank statements showing the transfers, dates that corresponded with tuition payments for Tyler and Madison, with the down payment on Garrett's house renovation. Carol's face went very still as she read. When she looked up, her expression had changed. Miss Draven, I'm going to be honest with you. Based on what you've just shown me, your mother doesn't have a case. Those transfers were not authorized. Garrett's face went red. That's not Mom said. Ivy knew. Mom said this was all agreed to. Your mother was mistaken, Carol said carefully. She looked at me. What do you want here? What's your end goal? I want my family to stop treating me like I don't exist, I said. I want them to acknowledge what they did. I want an apology that's real, not just a manipulation to get access to money. And the funds? They're mine. They stay mine. I'm not giving Garrett another penny. I'm not funding his life anymore. Carol nodded slowly. Fair enough, Garrett. I think we're done here. Wait. That's it. Garrett looked at her, then at me. Ivy, come on. We're family. You can't just what? I asked. Just stand up for myself. Just expect to be treated with basic respect. Just keep my own inheritance? You're destroying Mom. She's barely eating. She's barely sleeping. The stress is killing her. Where was your concern when she was destroying me? Where was your concern at that dinner when she told me I wasn't built for success? Where was your concern for the last 33 years while I was being erased from this family? I never erased you. You never saw me. The words exploded out of me. You never once asked about my work. You never asked about my life. You never stood up for me when Mom made me the punchline of every family story. You just sat there, comfortable in your perfect life, while I funded it with money that was supposed to secure my future. You think I'm being cruel? You don't even know what cruel is. Garrett's mouth opened and closed. He had nothing to say. Maybe for the first time in his life, he had nothing to say. Carol Simmons touched his arm. We should go. They left. I stood in my building's lobby, watching them walk away through the glass doors. Garrett was talking animatedly. Carol was shaking her head. I went back upstairs and called Owen. They brought a lawyer, I said, and she took one look at the evidence and basically told them they don't have a case. Good. That's good, Ivy, is it? I sat down on my couch, suddenly exhausted. Owen, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Part of me wants to give it all back, just to make this stop. To make them stop calling, stop showing up, stop making me feel like the villain. You're not the villain. Then why do I feel like one? Owen was quiet for a moment. Because your family has spent your entire life convincing you that standing up for yourself is the same thing as being selfish. They've trained you to believe that your needs don't matter, that your feelings are overreactions, that you should always be grateful for whatever scraps of attention they throw your way. So when you finally say enough, when you finally claim what's yours, it feels wrong. It feels like you're doing something terrible. But you're not. You're just refusing to be invisible anymore. I let those words sit. What happens if I don't give it back? I asked. Then you keep your inheritance. You secure your future. You prove that you're not the failure they've always told you that you were. You live your life on your own terms. And my family? What about them? They'll never forgive me, Ivy. Owen said gently. They never saw you to begin with. What are you really losing? That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at my ceiling, thinking about everything Owen had said. Thinking about that dinner. Thinking about 33 years of being the daughter who didn't measure up. I thought about the first time I'd realized I was different from Garrett. I was 7 years old. He'd won some school award, Student of the Month or something equally meaningless at that age, and my mother had thrown a party. Invited neighbors, bought a cake, made a big deal. That same week, I'd won second place in a district-wide art competition. My mother had glanced at the certificate and said, "That's nice, honey," and hung it on the fridge with a magnet half covering the words. It was always like that. Garrett's B+ was cause for celebration. Maya was expected and unremarkable. Garrett's participation in sports was evidence of his well-rounded excellence. My after-school art classes were a cute hobby. By the time I was in high school, I'd stopped trying to compete. I'd accepted my role as the supporting character in the Garrett show. It was easier that way. Less disappointing. College had been my escape. 4 years where I was just Ivy, not Garrett's little sister. 4 years where my work was valued, where my creativity was encouraged, where I was seen, and then I'd graduated and come back into my family's orbit. And all that visibility had vanished like it had never existed. I'd spent the last 11 years trying to prove I was worth something. Building my career, taking on challenging projects, winning awards, making good money, creating things I was proud of. None of it had mattered to them, because they'd already decided who I was, and no amount of success was going to change their minds. The bank investigation concluded on day 12. They unfroze my mother's accounts, the ones that contained her actual money. The inheritance funds remained in my control, legally, clearly, unambiguously mine. My mother called me 17 times that day. I answered on the 18th call. "What do you want, Mom?" "I want my daughter back." Her voice was hoarse, broken. "I want to fix this." "There's nothing to fix. I took what was mine. That's all. Ivy, please. Let's sit down. Let's talk about this. Family therapy, maybe. We can work through this." Family therapy? I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to my own ears. "Mom, therapy requires acknowledging there's a problem. Are you ready to acknowledge that you stole from me? That you treated me like garbage for my entire life? That you invited me to dinner specifically to humiliate me?" Silence. "That's what I thought," I said. "I'm sorry." The words came out small, fragile. "I'm sorry for what I said at dinner. I'm sorry for taking your money. I'm sorry for making you feel less than Garrett. I'm sorry, Ivy. Doesn't that count for something?" "You're not sorry for doing it," I said quietly. "You're sorry you got caught." "That's not true, Mom. If I hadn't found those transfers, would you have ever stopped? Would you have ever told me the truth? Or would you have just kept taking and taking until there was nothing left?" She didn't answer. "That's what I thought," I said again. "You're sorry now because there are consequences. You're sorry because your bank accounts were frozen and your friends probably found out and it's embarrassing. You're sorry because it affects your image. But you're not sorry for hurting me. You're not even sorry for doing it in the first place. You're just sorry you're not getting away with it anymore." "You're my daughter," she whispered. "How can you believe that about me?" "Because you've shown me who you are, Mom. For 33 years, you've shown me exactly who you are. And I finally believe you. I hung up. The weeks that followed were strange. Quiet. My phone stopped ringing constantly. The emails tapered off. My family seemed to finally accept that I wasn't going to back down. I used some of the inheritance money to upgrade my equipment, a new computer, better software, a proper camera for client meetings. I hired an accountant to help me plan for the future. I moved into a nicer apartment, one with a separate office space and big windows that filled the rooms with light. I went to therapy. Real therapy, with a woman named Dr. Sarah Chen who specialized in family trauma and narcissistic dynamics. She helped me understand that what I'd experienced wasn't just neglect or favoritism, it was a systematic erasure of my worth as a person. Your mother needed you to be small, Dr. Chen explained during one session. She needed you to be the failure so Garrett could be the success. It's a common dynamic in families with narcissistic patterns. One child is the golden child, one is the scapegoat, and the roles are assigned early and reinforced constantly. But why? I asked. Why would a parent do that to their own child? Because it serves them, she said simply. Your mother got to be the hero who supported the successful son. She got validation from his achievements, and your struggles made his successes look even better by comparison. You weren't a daughter to her. You were a supporting character in the story she wanted to tell about herself. That understanding was both devastating and liberating. Devastating because it meant my mother had never really seen me. Liberating because it meant her rejection had never been about my worthlessness, it had been about her need for a narrative. I wasn't the failure. I was just cast in that role. 3 months after that New Year's dinner, I got an email from Patricia Hendricks. We'd kept in touch sporadically, checking in every few weeks. The email was brief. Monica filed for divorce. Garrett's having a breakdown. Your mother is telling everyone you destroyed the family. I thought you should know. Also, I have a friend who owns a branding agency in Manhattan. They're looking for a creative director. I send them your portfolio. They want to meet you. I read it 3 times. Monica filed for divorce. I felt a pang of sympathy for her, then remembered she'd been complicit in the money scheme. She'd known where that money was coming from and she'd said nothing. Garrett's having a breakdown. I felt nothing. Maybe I should have felt sorry for him. He was my brother, but he'd never acted like a brother. He'd acted like a competitor I'd already lost to, someone who didn't need to acknowledge me because my existence didn't threaten his position. Your mother is telling everyone you destroyed the family. Of course she was. Of course she was spinning this to make herself the victim. Of course she couldn't admit what she'd actually done, but that last part, the job lead, that made me sit up. I'd been freelancing my entire career because I'd convinced myself I wasn't good enough for a real position, that I didn't have the credentials, the connections, the worthiness to compete for major roles. I'd internalized my mother's narrative so completely that I'd been limiting myself. I called Patricia. I saw your email, I said, and I'm interested in the job. I thought you might be. Her name is Jessica Liu. She's expecting your call. I interviewed with Jessica the following week. Her office was in a converted loft in Soho, all exposed brick and natural light. She was younger than me, maybe 30, with purple-streaked hair and a portfolio that included work for major brands I'd only dreamed of working with. Patricia showed me your work, Jessica said, pulling up my portfolio on her laptop. This is good. Really good. Why are you freelancing? Flexibility, I said automatically. I like being my own boss. She looked at me over her screen. Bullshit. I blinked. Sorry, she said, not sounding sorry at all. But I've been doing this long enough to recognize when someone's underselling themselves. You're freelancing because someone convinced you that you're not good enough for something better. Am I right? I felt my face heat. Maybe. Well, you are. Good enough, I mean. Better than good enough. You're exceptional. She turned the laptop toward me. This campaign you did for Lumina Skincare? That won an American Graphic Design Award. Do you know how few freelancers win those? I know. But in this brand identity for Riverside Coffee Co. I tried to recruit the designer who did that 6 months ago. That was you? Yes. And you're sitting here telling me you like freelancing because it's flexible? She laughed. Ivy, you've been hiding. I don't know why. And I don't need to know why. But I'm offering you a chance to stop hiding. Creative director position. full benefits, competitive salary, and most importantly, a team of people who will actually appreciate what you can do. I felt something crack open in my chest. Not the painful crack from that dinner, a different kind, like sun breaking through clouds. Can I think about it? I asked. Sure, you have until Monday. I took the job. 4 months after that New Year's dinner, I walked into an office with my name on the door. Creative Director, Ivy Draven. The nameplate was simple, elegant. Mine. My team was small but talented: 3 designers, 2 copywriters, a project manager who kept us all organized. We worked on campaigns for clients I'd never dreamed I'd have access to. National brands, international accounts, work that mattered. And I was good at it. Not just competent, genuinely good. I had ideas that excited clients. I mentored junior designers. I pitched campaigns that won business. I was everything my mother had told me I could never be. The irony wasn't lost on me. 6 months after that dinner, Garrett reached out. Not a call, not an email, a letter, an actual physical letter sent to my new apartment. I almost threw it away without opening it. But curiosity got the better of me. Dear Ivy, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to read this whole letter. But I needed to write it anyway. Even if just for myself. Monica left me. You probably heard that already. She said she couldn't be married to someone who could stand by while his mother stole from his sister. She said it showed a fundamental lack of integrity. She was right. Mom's version of events: that you're being vindictive, that you stole from the family, that you're cruel and ungrateful. I believed that at first. Or maybe I wanted to believe it because the alternative was too uncomfortable. The alternative meant admitting I'd been complicit in something terrible. But after Monica left, I started actually looking at the documents, the transfers, the dates, the emails Patricia showed Carol, and I realized what Mom had done, what I'd benefited from, what I'd let happen because it was easier than asking questions. You were right. I never saw you. I never asked about your work or your life or whether you were okay. I just accepted Mom's narrative that you were the failure and I was the success. And I liked that narrative because it made me feel good about myself. I liked having a sister I could feel superior to. I'm not writing this to ask for forgiveness. I'm writing this because you deserve an apology that's real, not strategic, not trying to manipulate you into giving the money back or resuming contact. Just real. I'm sorry, Ivy, for everything. For every dinner where I let Mom mock you. For every holiday where I didn't stand up for you. For taking money I should have questioned. For being a brother who existed only on paper. You deserved better. You deserved a family that saw you. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're happy. I hope you've built a life that makes you proud. Away from all of us, you were always stronger than I gave you credit for. Garetti read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. It was a good apology, maybe even a sincere one, but it didn't change anything. It didn't undo 33 years of damage. It didn't make us family. Some things, once broken, stay broken. 1 year. After that New Year's dinner, I went back to the restaurant where my mother had held her family gathering. I wasn't there for nostalgia. I was there for a business dinner. Jessica had landed a major client and wanted to celebrate with the team. We were meeting at the same upscale restaurant, though I didn't realize it until I walked in. The maitre d' seated us at a table by the window. My team was in high spirits, joking and toasting with expensive wine Jessica had insisted on ordering. I was happy, genuinely, uncomplicatedly happy. And then I saw her, my mother, sitting 3 tables away with a group of women I vaguely recognized from her social circle. She was laughing at something one of them said, her hand delicately holding a wine glass. She looked smaller than I remembered, older, or maybe I was just seeing her clearly for the first time. Our eyes met across the restaurant. I waited for the panic, the guilt, the instinctive urge to make myself small, but it didn't come. Instead, I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just a kind of neutral acknowledgement. There's my mother. There's the woman who raised me and hurt me and stole from me. She didn't approach. Neither did I. We finished our meal. My team laughed and celebrated. I pitched in, told stories, enjoyed the food. The whole time, I was aware of my mother's presence, aware of her watching me, aware of the unspoken history sitting between our tables like a ghost, but I didn't let it diminish my joy. As we were leaving, I walked past her table. She touched my arm light, hesitant. "Ivy," she said. I stopped. "Mom, you look well." "I am well." Her eyes searched my face, looking for something. An opening, maybe. A crack in my armor where she could insert guilt or obligation or whatever tool she thought might work. She didn't find it. "I miss you," she said quietly. "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. Not sorry for what I'd done. Sorry that she missed someone who had never actually existed, the daughter she'd wanted me to be, the one who would accept crumbs and call them love. I walked away. My team was waiting by the entrance. Jessica raised an eyebrow. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, and I was surprised to realize it was true. "I'm okay." 2 years after that New Year's dinner, I sat in my apartment, the nice one, the one with the office and the big windows, and looked at the life I'd built. I was thriving at work. I'd been promoted to senior creative director. My name was on campaigns that ran nationally. I mentored younger designers and watched them grow. I made good money, more than I'd ever dreamed of making as a freelancer. I traveled Paris for a client meeting that turned into a long weekend exploring the Marais. Tokyo for a design conference where I met collaborators who became friends. Iceland, just because I'd always wanted to see the northern lights. I dated. Some relationships lasted a few months, some only a few weeks. None of them were the one, but they were good experiences. They taught me what I wanted, what I deserved, how to recognize when someone saw me versus when they saw a role they wanted me to fill. I'd made friends, real friends, who knew my story and didn't tell me I should forgive and forget, who celebrated my successes without comparing them to anyone else's, who showed up when I needed them. I'd built something real, something mine, something that no one could take away from me. And I'd done it without my family. That was the hardest truth, that I was better off without them, that the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally had been the ones holding me back, that cutting them off had been an act of survival, not cruelty, but it was true. Dr. Chen had warned me about this. "You're going to grieve," she'd said, "not for the family you lost, but for the family you never had. You're going to grieve the mother who should have seen you, the brother who should have supported you, the childhood that should have been different. That grief is real, and it's valid, and you need to let yourself feel it." She was right. I grieved. I grieved for the little girl who'd hung that second-place art certificate on the fridge and believed it meant something. I grieved for the teenager who'd stopped trying because trying only led to disappointment. I grieved for the woman who'd spent 11 years building a career while believing she was a failure, but I also celebrated. I celebrated the strength it took to walk away, the courage it took to reclaim what was mine, the audacity it took to build a life on my own terms. I celebrated becoming visible. Finally, completely, undeniably visible, on the second anniversary of that New Year's dinner. I did something I'd been planning for months. I started a foundation, the Draven Foundation for Emerging Creatives, a scholarship and mentorship program for young artists and designers who didn't have family support, who didn't have the connections or the trust funds or the safety nets, kids like me. I funded it with part of my inheritance, the money my mother had tried to take. The money that had been meant to secure my future. And it would secure futures, just not mine alone. The first cohort of students started in the fall. 10 kids from all over the country. Talented, passionate, struggling to make it in an industry that often favored connections over creativity. I met with each of them personally. I told them about my journey, not all of it, but enough. Enough so they knew I understood what it felt like to be dismissed, to be told you weren't enough, to have your dreams treated like hobbies. You are enough. I told them, exactly as you are. Your work matters. Your vision matters. You matter. And this program exists to prove that to you. One girl, 19 years old with a portfolio that made my breath catch, started crying. "No one's ever said that to me before," she whispered. I understood. God, I understood. That's when I knew I'd done the right thing. All of it. The confrontation, the reclamation, the walking away. The year of silence and rebuilding. The choice to use my pain for something productive instead of letting it consume me. I'd taken the weapon my family had used against me, their belief that I was worthless, and I'd transformed it into a shield for other people. That was my revenge. Not the frozen bank accounts or the exposed lies or the legal battles. My revenge was thriving. My revenge was building something beautiful from the ashes of their rejection. My revenge was proving, every single day, that I was exactly as capable and talented and worthy as I'd always believed I could be. My revenge was living well. 3 years after that New Year's dinner, I received a wedding invitation. Not to my own wedding, I was still happily single, still figuring out what partnership might look like for me. But to Patricia Hendricks' son's wedding, I almost didn't go. Patricia and I had stayed in touch, but I hadn't expected to be invited to a family event. We had coffee every few months, exchanged emails about work and life, but we weren't close in the way that warranted wedding invitations. But the invitation came with a handwritten note. Ivy, I've watched you rebuild your life with such grace and strength. My son asked me to invite someone who inspires me, someone whose courage changed how I think about family and worth and standing up for yourself. You're that person. I hope you'll come. Patricia, I went. The wedding was beautiful. Outdoors, overlooking a lake, the kind of ceremony that felt more like a celebration than a formality. I didn't know many people there, but Patricia introduced me around, and I found myself having real conversations with strangers who asked about my work and actually listened to the answers. Monica was there. Of course she was. It was her nephew's wedding. We didn't speak for the first hour. I wasn't avoiding her exactly, but I wasn't seeking her out either. She approached me during the cocktail hour, when I was standing by the lake watching the sun set. Ivy. I turned. Monica, you look well. She did. She looked lighter somehow, less polished and perfect, more real. So do you. I heard about your foundation. It's incredible. Thank you. We stood in awkward silence for a moment. I owe you an apology, Monica said finally. A real one. Not the performative one I sent in that email. I knew where that money was coming from. Maybe not at first, but eventually. And I didn't say anything because it benefited us. It benefited my kids. And that was wrong. I looked at her. Really looked at her. She wasn't performing now. She was just a woman who'd made a mistake and was owning it. Thank you, I said, for saying that. I know it doesn't fix anything. I know we're not going to be friends or sisters-in-law or whatever we were supposed to be. But I wanted you to know that I see what you did. Not the money stuff, the other thing. The harder thing. You walked away from people who didn't value you, and you built a life anyway. You didn't let them define you. Her voice cracked a little. I'm trying to do that now. Walk away from people who don't value me. Figure out who I am without someone else's narrative. It's harder than I thought it would be. It is hard, I agreed. But it's worth it. She nodded. Garrett asks about you sometimes. Not asking me to reach out or anything. Just wondering if you're okay. I'm okay, I said. Better than okay, actually. Good. That's good. She smiled, sad and genuine. I should get back. But Ivy, I'm glad you came tonight. And I'm glad you're okay. She walked away, back toward the wedding party, back toward her life. I stayed by the lake and watched the sun finish setting. 5 years after that New Year's dinner, my mother died. Heart attack. Sudden. She was 68, Garrett called me. I'd changed my number twice since our last conversation, but he'd tracked it down somehow. Ivy, he said when I answered. Mom's gone. I felt the words land without quite processing them. Gone? She had a heart attack yesterday morning. She didn't make it. I sat down. Oh, the funeral is Saturday. I know we haven't spoken, but she was our mother. I thought you should know. And maybe you'd want to be there. I should have felt something. Grief, maybe. Or relief. Or the complicated tangle of emotions that comes with losing a parent you had a difficult relationship with. Instead, I felt numb. I'll think about it, I said. I did go to the funeral. Not for her. Not even for Garrett. But for closure. For the chance to stand in front of that casket and acknowledge that the woman who'd defined so much of my life through her rejection was really, finally, gone. The service was well attended. My mother had friends, a social circle, a reputation as a pillar of the community. Person after person stood up and talked about her generosity, her grace, her dedication to family. I sat in the back and listened to them describe a woman I'd never known, or maybe I had known her. And this was just a version she'd shown everyone else. The mask she'd worn in public while reserving her cruelty for private family moments. That was a painful thought. That she'd been capable of kindness all along. Just not toward me. After the service, Garrett found me. "Thanks for coming," he said. "I'm sorry for your loss," I said, and meant it. Whatever my mother had been to me, she'd been something different to him. He was allowed to grieve her. "Ivy, there's something I need to tell you. About Mom's will." I tensed. "Garrett, I don't want anything. She left everything to me," he said quickly. "The house, her accounts, all of it. But there was a letter. For you. She wrote it a few months ago apparently. Her lawyer said she was very specific that you should receive it." He handed me an envelope. My name written in my mother's careful handwriting. I took it but didn't open it. "You don't have to read it now," Garrett said. "Or ever, really. But I wanted you to have it." I nodded. We stood there awkwardly for a moment. Then Garrett did something surprising. He hugged me. Just a quick, tight embrace. "I know I don't deserve to say this," he said, "but I'm proud of you. What you've built. Who you've become. Mom should have been proud too." He walked away before I could respond. I didn't read the letter for 2 weeks. It sat on my desk unopened while I went about my life. Work, friends, foundation meetings. Life continued around the sealed envelope from a dead woman. Finally, late one night when I couldn't sleep, I opened it. "Ivy, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I've been thinking about death a lot lately. Not in a morbid way, just practically. When you reach a certain age, you start to see the edges of your own mortality. I know you won't believe this, but I loved you. I did. I do. I just didn't know how to show it in a way you could recognize. Your grandmother used to tell me I was too hard on you, that I expected too much, pushed too hard, compared you to Garrett in ways that weren't fair. I told her she was wrong. I told her I was trying to motivate you, to push you to be your best, but she wasn't wrong. I was. I don't know when it started, this need to have one perfect child and one struggling child. Maybe it started with my own mother, who did the same thing to me and my sister. Maybe it's just something broken in me. But I made you into something you never were. A failure. And you weren't a failure. You were just different from what I expected. Different from what I knew how to celebrate. The money, I know you know about the money. I know what I did was wrong. I told myself I was helping Garrett, helping the grandchildren. But really, I was just continuing the pattern. Proving to myself that you didn't deserve as much because you hadn't achieved as much. I was wrong about that too. I saw your foundation announcement online. The Draven Foundation. I sat at my computer and read about it and cried. Not because you used the inheritance to create it, though I'll admit that stung at first, but because it was so clearly, perfectly you. Creative and generous and thoughtful. Everything I should have seen in you all along. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve the chance to ask for it. But I want you to know that in these last few months, as I've been thinking about my life and what I'm leaving behind, I've realized something. You were the success story all along. Not Garrett. You survived me. You survived my cruelty and my blindness and my need to diminish you. And you didn't just survive, you thrived. You became everything you were meant to be, not despite me, but without me. That's an accomplishment I can finally recognize. Even if I'm too late to celebrate it properly, I'm proud of you. Ivy, I should have said it 1,000 times throughout your life. I'm saying it now, even if it's too late to matter. Love. Mommy read the letter 3 times. Then I cried. Not for her. Not even for the relationship we never had. I cried for the little girl who'd needed to hear those words. I cried for the teenager who'd stopped hoping for them. I cried for the woman who'd built a life without them. And then I folded the letter carefully and put it away. It was too late. She was right about that. The words were real, maybe even sincere, but they came decades too late to heal the wounds they addressed. But still, it was something. A acknowledgement. Admission. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. But it was truth. Finally, At the end, truth, I could live with that. Today, I'm 38 years old. It's been 5 years since that New Year's dinner. 5 years since I reclaimed my inheritance and my dignity and my life. The Draven Foundation has grown. We support 50 students a year now. I've watched them graduate, land jobs at major companies, start their own studios. I've watched them become exactly what they were always capable of being, given the support and recognition they deserved. I'm still at Jessica's agency, though I'm a partner now. My name is on the door. My work is on billboards and in magazines and in campaigns that win awards I used to dream about. I'm dating someone, a photographer named Marcus, who makes me laugh and challenges me and sees me. Really sees me. We don't know where it's going yet. But that's okay. We're taking our time. I have a community. Friends who feel like family. Colleagues who respect my work. Students who look up to me. A life that's full and rich and entirely my own. I don't speak to Garrett. We're not estranged exactly. We're just separate. Two people who happen to share DNA but don't share a life. Maybe someday that will change. Maybe it won't. Either way is okay. Sometimes I think about that dinner. The way I felt sitting at that table, shrinking under my mother's contempt, watching my life be dismissed as meaningless. And then I look at my life now, at everything I've built, at the person I've become. That dinner was supposed to break me. It was supposed to remind me of my place, keep me small, keep me grateful for whatever scraps of acknowledgement my family chose to throw my way instead. It freed me, because humiliation, when you survive it, can become fuel. Rejection, when you move through it, can become clarity. And sometimes, the people who try to diminish you end up showing you exactly how strong you are. My mother thought she was teaching me a lesson that night. She was right. Just not the lesson she intended. She taught me that I didn't need her. I didn't need their approval or their validation or their version of success. I just needed to believe in myself. And I do. Finally, completely, unshakably I do. So here's what I want you to know. If you're reading this and seeing yourself in my story, you are not the failure they told you that you were. You are not too much or not enough or any of the other labels people put on you to make themselves feel better. You are exactly who you're supposed to be, and if the people who are supposed to love you can't see that, it's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their limitations. Walk away if you need to. Reclaim what's yours if you need to. Build a life that makes you happy, even if it disappoints the people who wanted something different from you, and know that on the other side of that choice, on the other side of that fear and grief and uncertainty, there's a life waiting for you that's better than anything you could have imagined. A life where you're not invisible. A life where you matter. A life that's yours. That New Year's dinner was supposed to be my lowest moment. The final proof that I was everything my family had always said I was. Ordinary, unsuccessful, unworthy of love or respect or basic human dignity. Instead, it became my beginning. The moment I stopped trying to earn their love and started demanding my worth. My mom mocked me at dinner. A week later, her money disappeared. But the real disappearing act wasn't the frozen accounts or the recovered inheritance. It was me. Disappearing from a narrative that was never true. Disappearing from a family that never saw me. Disappearing from the role of failure so I could finally, fully, beautifully appear as myself. And I've never looked back. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for witnessing my pain and my survival and my ultimate triumph. Drop a comment if this resonated with you. If you've ever been the black sheep, the disappointment, the one who was never quite enough. If you've ever had to choose between staying in a toxic family dynamic or walking away into the unknown, I see you. I was you. And I'm telling you, you can make it to the other side. Your story doesn't end with their rejection. It begins there. This is Ivy Draven, signing off. May you all find the courage to reclaim what's yours and build the life you deserve, even if it means doing it alone. Especially if it means doing it alone, because sometimes being alone is the first step to finally being whole.